Hi, today I will be discussing with you fish genetic resources. Fish genetic resources are important source of food and nutrition. They are also important source of pharmaceutical and commercial values. They support livelihood and sustainable development. In our country, if you see, fisheries provides employment to 14 million people, and also it supports foreign exchange. For a lot of money we are getting it from fisheries. It contributes to 1% of GDP, fisheries. So that this fisheries and fish genetic resources are very important component of country and also people's growth and development. This fish biodiversity, when you talk about it, is very important. Why? Because this species, that is fish species, forms an important component of vertebrates. Highest species diversity that you are finding in fish, that is among all the vertebrates, the fish biodiversity is the largest one. And second important thing is that the diversity that is existing in the size, shape, biology and habitats, that is enormous as far as fish biodiversity is concerned. To say an important point as about the habitats, this habitat, we can find the fish habitat in the Antarctic region, we can find it in the hot springs, we can find it in the saline region or saline water or fresh water. So the diversity is very wide and it is enormous in nature. And this fish biodiversity will be an important topic in the sustainable management of biodiversity. And this fish biodiversity, if you say in our country, 4 of our 34 global biodiversity hotspots are present in our country, and it indicates, it exhibits a lot of variety among the biological resources. So these 4 important global biodiversity hotspots that we are having in our country, it's a very significant thing. And also if you see, our country is home to 11.72% of global fish biodiversity. And if you see the hotspots, I was talking about the Western Ghats, the northeastern region, Himalayas and southern Nicobar Islands. And in this, if you see properly, the endemic fish species, that is very high in case of Western Ghats as compared to northeastern region. So endemic fish species, if it is present in the Western Ghats, it's a very important resources for the people, and also it's an important point from the perspective of conservation, because in that particular region only these species are existing. So we need to take utmost precaution and measures to conserve those species that is present in the Western Ghats. And as far as the aquatic resources in our country is concerned, we can boast definitely about the 14 rivers, major rivers and 44 medium rivers. It comes to around 29,000 kilometers of rivers that we have in our country. And also we have 0.3 million hectares of estuaries, 0.9 million hectares of backwater and lagoon, which Kerala is very famous for it, and 3.15 million hectares of reservoirs, freshwater reservoirs we have it, and 0.2 million hectares of floodplain wetlands. And further, we have around 0.72 million hectares of upland lakes. I was just talking about the lakes that is in the Ladakh region, and manywhere in the higher altitudes we have lakes, and in that lakes also fish population is there. And also very importantly, 2.02 million square kilometers of exclusive economic zone we have in our country. And as far as the coastline is concerned, it is more than 8,000 kilometers of coastline we are having it. When I talk about the coastline, I am talking about the significance of marine fishes. When I talk about the exclusive economic zone, I am talking about the significance, how much potential we are having as far as the aquatic resources are concerned. And we can use so much resources, that is marine fisheries we can take into account, because as far as marine fisheries is concerned, it contributes significantly for our fish production completely, and India as such, it's contributing much to the global fish production. And as far as the classification is concerned, the first and foremost important thing is the cold water fish biodiversity. When I say cold water, we must know what exactly it is. It is the aquatic resources that is present above 914 meters, that is above mean sea level, that is well distributed in the Himalayas, sub-Himalayan region and mountains of southern peninsula. So these are the cold water, that is cold water habitats. In that cold water habitat, the very important factor, a significant factor, is the temperature. The temperature in this cold water that varies between 0 degrees centigrade and 20 degrees centigrade. But however, the optimum temperature is 10 to 12 degrees centigrade. This is a very important factor, because this temperature, being a climatic factor, that decides the distribution of cold water species, that decides the biology, that decides the ecology of fish population that is thriving in the cold waters. And as far as the cold water region is concerned, it is very well known for the high level of transparency. That cold water, you will be finding a high level of transparency, and also very important parameter that we have to take into account is the dissolved oxygen. The dissolved oxygen in cold water, that varies between 7 ppm to 10 ppm. These are the two important parameters that has to be taken into account for us to study the cold water fish biodiversity. The eye transparency and dissolved oxygen parameter. This particular region, cold water, if you see the fish that is existing in this particular region, they are very small in size, though it has been distributed quite enormously in that particular region, because the factors are many factors that is influencing the distribution. One important factor is the habitat, one important factor is the rock substrata, one important factor is the flow of water. So these all the three factors decides the distribution of the cold water species. But however, I was talking about the size, that is the size of the fish in the cold water, that is very small. There are many reasons for it. There are a lot of species, to cite a few: tor putitora, tor mosel, tor malabaricus, tor, so many species are there. Even the tor progenesis, that is also a very important species, that is as far as the cold water is concerned. Another thing is another group of species, that is Beryllius bendalensis, Beryllius chakra, Beryllius vagra, so many and so on and so forth is there as far as the cold water fish biodiversity is concerned. And one important region as far as the cold water is the Trans-Himalayan region. When I say Trans-Himalayan region, this region is known for certain characteristics. First and foremost character is the extreme environmental condition. I am talking about the climatic condition, I am talking about the abiotic condition, I am talking about the biotic condition. So the extreme environmental condition is thriving in Trans-Himalayan region. And in that region, if you see the population wise, it is very low. So the low population is because of what? It is because of the seasonality. It is because of the unpredictable nature. So that is the reason why in this particular region, since it is having an extreme environmental condition, the population is very low as far as the fish population is concerned. To cite a few examples: Triplophysa microbes, Triplophysa tenucauda, these are the important species. And we have Diptychus maculatus. There are many species are there. These of 3 or 4 are very important thing as far as the Trans-Himalayan region are concerned. There are many examples are there. Ladakh is a very important example. So these kind of species you will be finding in the upper reaches of Indus region. Sayok, Janskar ranges you will be finding this kind of species. And now we will go for the warm water fish biodiversity. When I talk about warm water, it's a very important thing because India is known for the aquatic resources. I just mentioned about the 29,000 kilometers. 14 major river systems you have in our country, and that constitutes 83% of the drainage in our country. When I say 14 major rivers: Indus, Brahmaputra, Ganges, Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, and on the western side you have Narmada, Tapti, Mahi, so many rivers we have system. And when I say river system, this 14 major river system is a very important thing as far as the warm water fish biodiversity is concerned. And when you look at one by one, the Ganges, when I say talking about the Ganges, you will be finding more than 250 species, warm water species in Ganges. Brahmaputra you will be finding around 200, in Mahanadi around 99, in Narmada about 90, Kaveri you will be finding around 70 species. So what I want to say is that the diversity between the rivers that we have to take into account, the warm water fish diversity is very important thing, because this contributes significantly for our country's fish production, because we need to capture it, because the inland fisheries is a very important component of completely fish production. So other things about the rivers I was talking about is the western part of our country is known for certain quick flowing rivers, that is called west flowing rivers. They have been originated from the western Ghats, the Chaliyar, Chalakudi, Periyar, Sharavadi, Netravadi. There are so many rivers are there, and in that rivers, one important point I just mentioned, that is the endemic species. For example, Bavenia, Gonopterus, Omloptera, there are so many species. These endemic species are very important thing, because I just said these species you will be finding only in that region. Since it is found in that particular region, so the point of conservation is very important thing. It has to be conserved for the posterity. Other group of warm water species, that is important group is the carps, Katla, Labio rohita, Labio galbasu, Labio bata, Labio fimbriatus. Labio fimbriatus is a very important species as far as the peninsular region is concerned. And Cyrrhinus myrgla, there are so many species. These are the group of carps that you are finding in the warm water fish biodiversity. As far as the swamp region is concerned, the fish are breathing species. It's a very good group of species you will be finding in the swamp region. So that swamp, it boasts of murals, Channa striatus, Channa Marulius, Clarius batrachus. There are so many species, but these are the important species that you will be finding in the swamp region. And another group of fishes, that is catfish, Rita rita, Spirata haro, Spirata singala. These are the very important species, catfishes, that you'll be finding in the warm water regions of our country. And as far as other rivers are concerned, in the river Mahanadi, it's a another group of, it's a very important river as far as the for warm water fish biodiversity is concerned. In this river, you'll be finding the species that is existing in the Ganges river. Also, in addition, we have Labiofimbriatus. I said just now that Labiofimbriatus, it's a very important fish that is thriving in the peninsular region. And you also will be finding Ilsa. Ilsa is a very important region that you will be finding in the lower reach of the river Mahanadi. In Godavari river, you will be finding catfishes. Just now I mentioned about the catfish Spirata species. So there are so many species are there. In addition, you will be finding Silonia childreni. These are all the species that you will be finding in the Godavari river. And also in the east coast of our country, freshwater prawn is a very important thing. Though it's not a fish, but it's a very important prawn for as far as the economic value is concerned. Macrobranchium malcolmsoni. This is all a very important prawn culture that is there in the east coast of our country. And as far as the Kaveri region is concerned, Tor kudri, Tor musala. These are the two important species that is thriving as far as the warm water fishes are concerned in the river Kaveri in Tamil Nadu. And west flowing rivers, I was just talking about the significance of west flowing rivers. The river Narmada boasts of 23 species of carps. And importantly, I said time and again, Labiofimbriatus is very important thing. As far as the catfish is concerned, Spirata, there are many species. In this case, Rita pavimenta is a very important species that is thriving in river Narmada. And as far as river Tapti is concerned, Thor is a very important species that you will be finding in river Tapti. Another group of water that is a very important thing, that is a brackish water. This brackish water is important from 2 points. One is this is a transition zone, transition between the freshwater zone and the marine zone. So when I say transition, this is having a unique characteristic in terms of salinity. When I said salinity, the salinity value varies between 0.5 to 30 parts per thousand. This is salinity is very less when you compare with the marine aquatic environment. And this particular region, we can definitely must talk about the estuarine systems. This estuarine is very famous as far as the productivity, fish productivity is concerned. As far as the nutrient level is concerned, it's very important thing. And of course, one important point is that this is highly vulnerable. When I say vulnerable, it's vulnerable because of the pollution, because of the human action, because of the construction activity, because of the urbanization at the coastal regions, and also because of the fishing, enormous kind of fishing, that is illegal fishing. Over exploitation of the estuarine system, that also has to be taken into account as far as the estuarine system is concerned. To mention a few, we have estuarine population, estuarine system in the Hooghly river, Mahanadi, Krishna, Godavari, and all along you will be finding this estuarine environment, and wherein the species are very unique. And as far as the lakes are concerned, in the brackish water lakes are concerned, Chilka is very famous as far as that is there in the Odisha region, and Pulicat in Tamil Nadu, and Vembanad in Kerala. And as far as the species is concerned, Elops saurus, it's a very important species that is there in the brackish water. Elops machinetta lisa macrolepsis. These are the very important species, brackish water species. In addition, one important point I wanted to mention, that is the lucrative, that is the economic values. As far as the economics is concerned, shellfish, Metapenis monoceros is a very important thing, shellfish, because it's having significant economic value. And now we have to go for an important class of species, that is marine fish. Marine fish biodiversity is a very important thing as far as the species is concerned, because in our country, if you see, more than 1200 species that are there in the marine region, marine fishes. So in that sense, it is very important thing. Second thing is that the kind of potential, it's having a huge potential, yet we need to tap it efficiently and effectively. And the characteristics of marine fish region, if you see, the salinity level is more than 30 parts per thousand. And I just now mentioned that we have more than 1300 taxa, that is 1300 species that is there in the marine region. And more importantly, the sharks, that is cartilaginous species, the rays are the cartilaginous. These are the very important group of species. Sharks and rays are the important species that is thriving in marine region. To example, definitely I need to give an example, that is as far as the sharks are concerned, it is Carcharodontis blackberry and Carcharodontis dusumeri. These are the very important species as far as sharks are concerned, and as far as the rays are concerned, Narsin, Brunia, Pristis, Macrodon. These are two important species as far as rays are concerned. These are two important things, sharks and rays. They are highly vulnerable also. We must take into account the vulnerability. We must take into account the production potential also. Another group of species that is very well known, that is the oil sardine. Examples as scientific names are concerned: Sardinella longiceps, Sardinella fimbriatus, Sardinella gibbosa, Sardinella halbinella. These are all the very important oil sardine species that is there in our country. That is in the, wherever you see in the Kerala region, the coastal part of the Kerala also. This is a very, very important thing. Soil sardine is a very, very important species. And now we are entering into an important topic. We have discussed in detail about the biodiversity. What is important is that the existence of variability. Existence of variability in terms of brackish water, in terms of fresh water, in terms of marine water. There is quite large variability that is we are finding in the number of species. You will be finding the variability in the abundance. We will be finding the variability in the potential and habitat also. Now we have to venturing into an important topic, important subtopic of this thing, that is the threats. Though we have discussed about the fish biodiversity, we need to understand how much it is vulnerable. And as far as the threats are concerned, there are many number of threats. To cite a few: habitat alteration, overexploitation, pollution, illegal fishing, exotic species, disease. This is a very, very important thing: global warming. These are the major threats that is affecting fish biodiversity. We will see one by one. The first is the habitat alteration. We human beings compete for water. We will be competing with the other organisms for water, because water is an important resource. We are competing because our population, human population, is also increasing. When you see globally, our population has crossed 7 billion. By 2050, our population will be touching 9.6 billion. So the kind of competition that we are having with other organisms, that has to be taken into account. That leads to kind of stress, that leads to kind of extinction, that leads to kind of extirpation. So the competition from the human beings are very, very important thing, and that competition, as far as the fish population is concerned, it's very, very huge, because of this competition, kind of habitat is altered. To cite a few examples, I'll say that dam construction is a very, very important activity, because we need dam for many purposes. Multi-purpose dams are there. Hydroelectric power, we need to use it for the navigation purpose. So and so forth, we have it, because this Ganges river, we cannot forget that national highway, the coastal highway, that we have it in the Haldia and Halabad region, that's called national highway number 1. So in this thing, very importantly, we have constructed a barrage that's called Farakka barrage in the West Bengal region, and this Farakka barrage, construction of Farakka barrage, has displaced the organism, has displaced the fish population, has displaced the spawning grounds. It has stopped, impeded the migration of fishes. Very importantly, Hilsa, there are very, very important Hilsa, that the scientific name is Tenulosa ilisa, that is a scientific name. This Farakka barrage has caused a lot of changes. Habitat has been altered, and there are many examples also in the upper part of the Ganges rivers. Many dams have been constructed, barrages have been constructed, that also has caused a lot of changes in the flow regime, that has caused change in the timing. I mean to say the kind of flow and the kind of ecology of river, everything is changing because of the construction of dams, barrages. In the northern part of our country, that means I'm talking about the Ganges, upper Ganges, you'll be finding, because of this activity, many species have been affected. Their breeding grounds have been affected, their flow has been affected, their feeding habit has been affected. For example, Masir, snow trouts, Schizothorax richardsoni, and Zygothorax brachiostomus. There are so many examples. To mention a few, this snow trouts or Masir, that has been severely affected because of construction of dams and other multi-purpose projects. And also if you see other human activities, because deforestation is a very, very important activity. Because of deforestation, we will be losing the species, land species, I am talking about the terrestrial species, and also that will lead to siltation. Because of the siltation that is taking place because due to deforestation or other human activities, what happens? The kind of the river flow, that has been affected severely. More than 200 million tons of silt that has been deposited in river Ganges. Why? Because of the human activity, and because of this siltation, ecology of river, that is affected. The feeding behavior, breeding behavior of fish population, that is affected because of the siltation and other human actions. Very next important threat is overexploitation. Overexploitation is a very, very important thing, because this overexploitation affects severely the heritable characteristics. When I say heritable characteristics, I am talking about the growth, I am talking about the age of sexual maturity. This has been severely affected because of overexploitation. To mention an example, see, if you capture, using all kind of gears you have it, you capture a large fish from a particular habitat, aquatic habitat, what happens, there is a severe reduction of heterozygosity. Because there is a severe reduction of heterozygosity, that will lead to reduction in the growth rate of fish population. So this overexploitation leads to what? Reduction in growth rate. It results in the lesser population of fish, and that also what it indicates, that these fish population is highly vulnerable. They are vulnerable to further action, they are vulnerable to further stresses, and because of that thing, what happened, there is a possibility that these species will be vanished from the aquatic environment. So the best example I wanted to say as far as the overexploitation is concerned, these species have been severely affected. The tor species Zygothorax, this is in the upland waters, that has been severely affected, and the Chitala is another species that has been severely exploited. And as far as the pollution is concerned, see, we can talk about the pollution from the angle of human population, increase in human population. So the increase in human population causes what? Industrialization, urbanization, and so on and so forth. And because of that thing, that led to an important factor, that is the tremendous kind of pollution, industrial pollution, municipal pollution, so much so that. And this particular pollution is causing a lot of harm to the human beings, causes a lot of harm to the living organisms. And in the aquatic environment, this is toxic to the fish life. It is very, very dangerous for the fish. Fish cannot survive because of this toxic pollution. When I say toxic pollution, one example I wanted to mention, that is the pesticide. There are group of agrochemicals that we are using it from just because that is in part and parcel of modern intensive industrial agriculture. These agrochemicals, we are using it rampantly. We are using it so much, and that results in what? That results in the toxic compounds in the aquatic environment. And these agrochemicals or these pesticides affects severely the reproductive function, and that leads finally to the fish mortality. Reproductive function, if it is affected, that leads definitely to further loss in the population, and that finally leads to fish mortality. And in certain environments, if you see, because of the rich nutrients, what a condition is developed that is called eutrophication. This eutrophication, because of eutrophication, fish life is affected. When I say eutrophication, the dissolved oxygen is reducing rapidly. Because of the reduction in the dissolved oxygen, because the oxygen level, the dissolved oxygen parameter will be less than 3 ppm. In that case, there is a difficulty for the fish to survive. And this eutrophication will lead finally to what? Algal blooms, finally to the toxic environments, and finally to the loss of fish population. And one important thing as far as the pollution is concerned, I would like to stress an important component, that is the coral reefs. Coral reefs is rich in biodiversity. You can say it is a tropical rainforest of marine habitat. It's a very, very important thing, this coral reefs. It symbolizes what? It is a symbiotic relationship between the coral organism and the algae. Because of the pollution, industrial pollution, or for that matter any pollution, because of that pollution, because of the stress, this symbiotic relationship has been affected, and that leads to coral bleaching. When the symbiotic relationship is affected, that definitely what happened, the algae is thrown out, pushed out, and because of that thing, you will be finding a peculiar condition that is called coral bleach. And when this is taking place, the biodiversity that is existing in the coral reef ecosystem, that drastically reduces. So how important the fish biodiversity in coral reefs, that is, there is no words to explain, because this coral reefs, I said that it is like a tropical rainforest of the marine habitats. It's a very, very important thing. And also, if you see, as far as the sedimentation is concerned, as far as the pollution is concerned, sedimentation is a very, very important factor. And because of this sedimentation, the light deprivation that is taking place. In the start of the lecture, I was talking about two important factors, that is the transparency, another one is the dissolved oxygen. This pollution affects severely the light factor. If light is affected, think about the planktons. Phytoplanktons. This phytoplanktons is a very, very important food for the fish population. If that is affected, what will happen to the other trophic levels? That's a point I wanted to stress. Another point is the dissolved oxygen. See, these both parameters are severely affected by the pollution factor. Next is the illegal fishing. When I say illegal fishing, the fishing, we are all driven for the economic things. When I say economics, because we need to produce more and more. So fishing operation is every time it is concentrated in the region where you will be finding more of fish. So in that region, what happened, we will not be giving respect to the mother or juvenile fish stocks. We will not be giving respect. So basic thing is we wanted to capture as much as possible. So kind of disrespect for the mother and juvenile fish stock, what will happen? It will lead to the devastation. It will lead to kind of complete vanished this kind of juvenile fish that will be removed from the system, because we are going for that particular thing. And also the spawning grounds in that region also we go for the fishing operation. So because this is illegal fishing, and this leads to a very piquant condition. So definitely the condition is very, we cannot even imagine. So all the young fish population that has been removed from completely. And there are a lot of other mechanisms we are using as far as the fishing operation is concerned. We are using dynamite for catching the fishes. See, think about it, how dangerous it is. Because of the use of dynamite, other fish population is also severely affected. Bull trawling, there are many other gears also there. Bull trawling, just all the fish population that is thriving in the sea bottom, that has been removed by using bull trawling. And purse seining is another important thing that is also used, for as a part of fishing operation. This also severely affects, because what happened, by this way what happened, we will be catching the shoals of fishes. Fish moves in a shoal, that will be removed by purse seining. And another group of fishing activity, that is back net fishing, wherein this is used for catching the migratory fishes, small juveniles, that will also be caught by using back net fishing. And incidentally, this use of exotic species, we use it for many purposes. Basically it is for the food and agriculture purpose, and these exotic species sometimes, or at times, what happened, this causes a lot of harm to the fish biodiversity, and it causes a lot of harm in terms of declining endemic fauna. And very important thing, recently species have been introduced, that is South American catfish has been introduced, that has been found in river Ganges in Patna region. And another important example as far as the exotic species is concerned, I would like to stress, this is a very important and fascinating example, that is Nile perch. The scientific name is Lats niloticus. This has been introduced in Lake Victoria, that is in Africa. And this Nile perch, what it does, it has completely devastated the cichlids. Aplochromis, that is a scientific name. This has been severely affected by this exotic species Nile perch. More than hundreds of species cichlids, that is Aplochromis, that has been severely affected by Nile perch. That's how devastating this exotic species, you must understand. And as far as in our country is concerned, in the Himachal region, in the Govind Sagar Dam, the silver carp has replaced Katla. That is a very common carp that we had in our place. The silver carp has replaced Katla. And a last thread, that is about the global warming, because with this global warming, when I say it is, I am talking about the increase in the sea surface temperature, I am talking about the change in the wind pattern, I am talking about the change in the precipitation, I am talking about the increased surface temperature, and this global warming is severely affecting the aquatic system. It affects the upwelling movement, currents, that is affected. When I say upwelling, I am talking about the biogenic elements. These biogenic elements form an important food for the fish population, that is affected, because in the upwelling region you will be finding a lot of nutrients will be brought from the down to the top surface layers. So pelagic fishes will be happy, they will be taking a lot of food, and the pelagic fishes abundance will be increasing. So what I want to say is that this global warming, on account of increasing surface temperature, sea surface temperature, and other aquatic processes, it is affecting the structure and function of ecosystem. So global warming is very dangerous as far as the fish biodiversity is concerned. So for example, in our country, on river Ganges, there is a shift in warm water fishes like Siranais, Riba, Macrognathus, Arel in river Ganges. This has been found in the region, Haridwar region. So why? Because of the change in the temperature, because of the change in the sea surface temperature or the river temperature. So my point is, this global warming is a very important threat as far as the other living organisms also concerned, and particularly the fish biodiversity is concerned. And we need to understand about the management. We have talked about the biodiversity, we have talked about the threats, and we need to understand how well we can manage it, because management is a very essential thing. As far as the management of species are concerned, we need to understand that the foremost importance should be given to the endangered species, endangered population. So the genetic management of endangered population is very, very important thing. In that case, we will be focusing on mainly the genetically active effective population. We need to maintain that population, because if we are not maintaining, that will lead to a smaller population, wherein you will be finding the phenomenon like inbreeding, you will be finding a phenomenon like drift. So because that leads to a kind of devastation. So we need to maintain the genetically effective population, and also we need to control the causative factors. The third important point is that we have to maintain the continuity of gene flow. So another important thing is we need to document the fish biodiversity, and there are measures of many in situ conservation. Say we have a group of protected area networks, 4 national marine parks, that is Gulf of Kutch, and in the Andaman and Nicobar we have it, Gulf of Mannar we have it. So these are the national marine parks we have it. There are so many, but 4 are very important things. Marine sanctuaries, Gahir Mata is very, very important thing, and Maulan is a very important thing as far as the Maharashtra region is concerned. There are many important sanctuaries are there. The foremost important thing as far as the management is concerned, we need to focus on captive breeding. Only then we can increase the population of the declining fish population, and also definitely we can take effective steps for conservation. It's a very, very important tool. As far as the ex situ conservation is concerned, we need to cryopreserve the fish gametes and embryos. To sum it up, we have India can boast about more than 1300 fish species, and mainly I was talking about the sharks, rays and skates are highly vulnerable. So we need to understand this thing, and conservation measure has to be taken timely. Only then the evolution process can be preserved. And finally, we need to end up in saying that this genetic resources, fish genetic resources, has to be sustainably used for posterity. Thank you.